Hello traders, welcome back to the channel. Recently the markets have been exceptionally volatile with a lot of movement and uncertainty. Let's see what's been happening. The dollar made some strong moves, but it hit a bit of a roadblock, retreating after failing to break above that key 110 level. Now, why did that happen? Well, it all started when President Trump imposed some hefty tariffs over the weekend, 25% on Canada and Mexico, and 10% on China. This news sparked a 1% jump in the US dollar, pushing it to nearly a 3 week high. But here's the catch: these tariffs could actually create inflationary pressures on the US economy, and that has investors worried. These tariffs are not entirely unexpected. They've been on Trump's radar since his campaign, but now we're seeing the reality of them. The question is, will these tariffs spark a trade war? And if so, what does that mean for the dollar? After a dip to a 6 week low, the dollar managed to bounce back last week. We're seeing some bullish movement, and if it can hold above 108, it might just make another run towards 110. Keep an eye on these levels, 108 and 107.8, because they're key to whether this rebound will hold. On Monday, oil prices took a hit as markets reacted to the tariff news. Crude oil spiked to $74.5, but concerns about supply disruptions from Canada and Mexico, two of the largest US oil suppliers, kept it from dropping too much. However, there's still caution in the air. Despite the supply concerns, there's a fear of weaker demand. And let's not forget that Trump's tariffs on China could hurt global oil demand, especially since China is the world's biggest oil importer. OPEC is sticking to its plan of gradually increasing production, but with everything going on, we could see oil bounce between $72 and $75 in the short term. If it breaks above 75.5, we might see it climb higher, but for now, oil's kind of in a holding pattern. Moving on to gold. This one's been a wild ride. Gold hit an all-time high recently, $2,830 per ounce. That's huge. The tariffs from Trump on Canada, Mexico, and China had investors flocking to gold as a safe haven asset. But then, gold saw some selling pressure at the start of this week, retreating from those record highs. With the dollar pushing higher, gold is facing some headwinds. On top of that, there's chatter that the Federal Reserve might not cut interest rates this year, especially with rising consumer prices. That's pulling some of the funds away from gold and into more yield-bearing investments. From a technical perspective, if gold can hold above the $2,770 level, we could see another shot at breaking that $2,830 level. But if it falls below 2,725, it could trigger further declines. So, gold traders, watch those levels closely. Next up, the Aussie dollar. This one's been on a roller coaster ride. The Aussie fell below 0.61 against the US dollar for the first time since April 2020, driven mainly by Trump's tariffs on China, Australia's largest trading partner. But wait, there's a twist. The Aussie rebounded sharply and moved back above 0.62. The Australian retail sales data also showed a slight dip in December, which raised concerns about consumer spending. Some analysts now think the Reserve Bank of Australia might cut rates soon. Looking at the chart, if the Aussie stays below 0.62, we might see further downside, maybe even testing 0.6. But if it manages to push above 0.625, we could see a short-term rebound. Keep your eyes peeled on that. The USD JPY pair has been a bit volatile, especially with the tariff news rocking markets. The US dollar briefly surged above 156, but then fell back to around 154.5. Japan's central bank has stayed positive, but global concerns about Trump's trade policies are keeping the yen on edge. If the dollar yen breaks above 156, it could target 157. But if it falls back below 154, we might see more weakness. So there's a bit of a tug of war going on there between the US dollar's strength and risk aversion. And that's your market update. Lots of movement across currencies, commodities, and the US dollar. Whether it's tariffs, oil supply, or the price of gold, there's a lot to keep an eye on this week. Make sure to stay tuned and subscribe to keep up with all the latest updates. Drop a comment if you've got questions or thoughts on these markets, and I'll see you in the next video.